Hey guys, it's me, Dumb Dog Duke again. I just wanted to thank everyone for the 1,000 views on the last video. When it came out, I thought I'd just be happy if it got 10 views, so overshooting that by so much has made me so happy and humbled me. Anyways, today we're gonna be talking about Fanganronpas. Yay! Yes! Now what is a Fanganronpa? A Fanganronpa is just a portmanteau of the word fan and Danganronpa, which is a video game series about 16 high schoolers of ultimate talents who all kill each other in an enclosed environment. I could talk about Fangans for days if I wanted to, but the things you need to know are that the cast, which is typically 16 students, are all locked in some sort of environment and told that they're not going to be able to leave unless they're able to murder someone and survive a class trial where all of your other classmates are attempting to find who did it so they can execute you. Because otherwise, if you survive, everyone else is executed. Simple enough, right? I've been obsessed with Danganronpa for a long time, I believe over a decade at this point, and this has led to me consuming many popular and unpopular Fangans. I've watched YouTube Fangans, played fan game Fangans, and I've even perused the Instagram Fanganronpas as well. And I just want to show y'all some of my favorite campy, silly, ridiculous, or just theatrical standout moments from these Fangans, and give each of these Fangans a little shout out too. Not all of these moments are going to be explicitly funny to me, though some of them are. I mainly use camp in the sense of that, like, heightened theatrical style that can come in both funny and non-phony moments when someone is taking themselves seriously to the point of absurdity, or factors about the situation make a serious situation feel hard to take seriously for some reason. Anyways, let's go ahead and get into it. Now first, I just want to set some ground rules. You guys are not going to go to any of these creators or games or YouTube pages and leave hate for any of the creators or any of the writing. Secondly, in the comments here too, if you want to talk about how you'd rewrite any of the scenarios or something like that, then that's okay. But please, please, please don't make me the YouTuber with the comment section full of people hating on other people's works. I'm begging. Thirdly, here's a list of trigger warnings that will be discussed but not depicted for this video, considering Danganronpas and Fanganronpas both tend to cover pretty dark topics. Murder, suicide, forced suicide, supernatural horror, misogyny, and familial abuse. Finally, here's a blanket spoiler warning for the entire Danganronpa series, as well as the following Fanganronpas: Another Despair Academy, Another 2, Desperate Hearts 1, and Desperate Hearts 2, Eternal Endings, Despair Time, and Project Eden's Garden. I'll attempt to keep it as spoiler light as possible, but some of these require a bit more context to understand. That being said, time to introduce the tier list. Woo! We're going to be putting each of these campy Fangan moments in a tier based on campy Dangan moments or characters. At the top, we have the Mecha Maru tier. This is where your best campy moments go, the ones that made me howl when I first heard them, or just the concept or idea is so silly and fun that it sparks nothing but joy for me. The Hero's Ghost Theory tier are for campy elements that I enjoy more than not, but either they've got something annoying about them, or maybe they're not as funny as the Mechamaru tier. Kibo as a battering ram is for camp moments I could take or leave. It's, you know, it's sort of average, it's fine, it's okay, you know. At second to bottom, we have Pregnant Hina tier. These are moments that I find a little funny in concept, but usually have annoying story implications, or in the case of Pregnant Hina, I just really hate looking at it or thinking about it. And at the very bottom, we have Monocubs Giving Birth tier. Things that I have to acknowledge are like a little campy or silly or stupid, but just, I'm not really in the mental place to be receiving this information, you know? It just isn't right. Now, there's actually one diva from a Fangan, who is so campy that she herself is on the list, as well as a few of the things she did. Alright, babes, I hope you're ready to learn about Arena fucking Amami! Arena comes from one of my all-time favorite Fangans, Desperate Heart. I'm just gonna give you a speedrun because I could talk about this Fangan all day. Okay, so this Fangan takes place in a universe where all the canon stuff seems to have happened, except for the V3 cast also appear to be there too. That isn't super important, but just stay with me here, okay? Anyways, some evil scientists were like, what if we made synths from Fallout 4? And so they sucked the memory out of Rantaro Amami's and made androids that were basically supposed to be a recreation of a set of twins he had from his memories that allegedly would mean Runtaro had already died if Feed 3 were somehow still canon in this world, so I'm not really sure how said memory sucking occurred. But anyways, okay, so now the Gaia and Arena droids, who I'm just gonna call Gaia and Arena from now on, we're supposed to just be going to the New Hope's Peak equivalent and the reserve course until they find out that they're actually robots. More on that later. Gaia, like, doesn't give a shit at all. Babes isn't really bothered. It's actually really funny. She's kind of dragged away by Arena with 2 other robots based on the memory of other Danganronpa relatives. Anyway, so Babes, these 4 robot Danganronpa relatives are like, we have to host a killing game. And so they kill off 4 of the real ultimates and take their place, right? Except now we have a problem. In order to be an ultimate, you sort of need to have, like, a talent. The other 2 had ultimates that were somewhat related to the person they were based off of. Which, as an aside, making Lilia Koizumi's ultimate war photographer when Mahiru's his photographer is also really funny to me. But that's an aside. Anyways, what do Gaia and Arena Amami decide to make their talents? Maybe something related to Runtaro's fanon or canon talent in Survivor or Adventure? No. No. They decide to opt for the fucking ultimate twins. Like, babes, you couldn't just pick 2 related talents? And Arena is questioned on it. Someone's like, hey, how's being a twin a talent? And she just doesn't really answer. Add all of this to their designs. Their designs are so trite and silly and cliche and camp. I have to believe it was intentional. Look at this. Oh, dear viewer. Arena, she has the smileys on her designs, and Gaia's got the frownies on hers. But nay, what if I told you that this was some clever visual irony once we learn more about what these 2 are really like? Anyways, I know you're probably wondering why I'm only talking about the allegedly good twin Arena and not the allegedly evil twin Gaia, and that's because, well, them being twins basically changes nothing about their story or situation. Like, babes, Arena is going around being a demon from hell, harassing the pro-tag and most of the cast, and just generally being a menace, and with Gaia, it's like, babes, where are ya? You haven't been seen for 2 chapters. In story, she's mostly just there to be a punching bag for Arena, and I want to feel bad for her, but she doesn't exist, basically. Anyways, I think I've explained enough about why she deserves to be here, but as we go through some of her campier moments, it'll be even clearer. I'm gonna put Arena Amami in the Kibo as a battering ram tier, because a lot of her campy moments are super fucking funny to me, but also there are so many times when I wish just she wasn't there. She's the fucking worst, man. Moving on to something that I'd say maybe isn't necessarily as funny, but is just as demonic. Let's talk about Tsurugi's forced suicide cult. Okay, so this is probably one of the most influential fangins in the short time it's existed, Danganronpa Another. The main thing you need to know is that all the people in the killing game in this chapter were trapped in a ballroom with a limited supply of food, and they were about to starve. And I know this sounds really dark, and truthfully it is, but the way things kind of played out is a little silly in my opinion. So almost everyone had gathered into a room to talk about how they were about to starve to death and what they could do about it, right? At first they suggest sacrificing 1 or 2 people just to end the motive, which is understandable. But then Tsurugi, ultimate cop with horrible idea of justice syndrome, comes in, gives everyone a gun first, and then, after he gives them the guns, he tells them how he's gonna force all of them to kill themselves. A frankly insane order of operation. And rather than any of the other 6 people in the room grabbing the gun they were just handed and attempting to use it to gain leverage, one of them decides to rush the guy with the gun and gets fucking thrown into a fridge. All hope is lost, and he's about to enact his plan. Our protagonist, Yuki Maeda, starts talking to him and says some stuff that makes Anime Cop go all aggro. So as he's about to attack Yuki, he fucking trips on some carpet and they tie him up. It's such a bizarre ending to the exchange. I'm really torn on where to put this because there's a lot of funny elements and bad decision making here, and it does have that sense of heightened drama, but also, like, the camp elements are really only evident in hindsight because in the moment it does feel very intense. But on the other hand, I think that adds to it. I think I'm gonna play Suicide Cult and Pregnant Hina tier because either of those things, they both make me sad to think about. It's time for our first Arena Amami crime. The first crime we're going to cover is actually against the protagonist of Desperate Heart 1, Toa Sumiko. She really sucks too, but that's not the point. Anyways, one of the reasons Toa Sumiko sucks is because she's a massive misogynist. So Arena invites Toa into her room in Chapter 2, and once Toa is close enough to Arena pulls out a funky-ass knife and is like, "Tell me about how you hate women, or I'll kill you right now!" And then Toa just does. She mentions that her mom was abusive to her and horrible to her flippantly in passing, which I understand why she wouldn't want to go into any further detail with someone holding her at knife point. But anyways, after she stated that she hates women because of that, and now believes all women only care about themselves. At this point, Arena says, "Huh, deep. I mean, you're wrong, but that's deep." I had this moment not because the situation is haha funny. It really isn't. However, the way Toa so openly and directly acknowledges her internalized misogyny, all being from one woman, and then assigning that blame to all women so bluntly feels like she herself is acknowledging how bizarre this mindset is. I understand why you might be confused about how this could possibly be campy and not just like straight up depressing. However, I would argue when you're watching the scene as a viewer, the way the story has directly acknowledged both of them sucking and being horrible people, and both being wrong in their views and actions, lend a certain BoJack Horseman or It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia vibe to the scene, if that makes sense. They both suck and are horrible people, and how they became horrible people and them being horrible people is integral to the scene. Beyond this, the in-story reason for Arena doing this to Toa is also rather flimsy and odd. You have this demonic robot woman forcing another woman to acknowledge her misogyny at knife point in such a bizarre way. I'm gonna put this in Hero's Ghost Theory tier. The dialogue is so direct and Arena's motivations and actions are so bizarre that the heaviness and seriousness of internalized misogyny or abuse feel skimmed over, which does give it a certain campier feel of the seriousness of the situation not being taken seriously and the wrong things being focused on, lending that sort of campy quality. But I don't think I can put it any higher than that because it's still such an unfortunate context. Moving on to our next moment, which is actually going to come from Eden's Garden. Here we have the introduction of the Enforcer, Mara. There isn't a whole lot of context you need for this one. Grace, one of the students, is about to beat the shit out of the mastermind Tozu, and instead of your typical traps, or maybe the headmaster having something rigged or being able to defend himself, you immediately just hear a fucking gunshot. Grace had been shot on the fucking cheek, which is crazy. The bullet like grazed her cheek, but they didn't shoot her. After which, you're immediately greeted with a CG of the woman in question in her little panther mask. Also, yeah, that's another thing. The evil people in this game are all kind of furries. I don't know what's up with that, but I thought it was worth bringing up. Anyways, I think there's something jarring and kind of funny about it just being a woman with a big gun enforcing all of the rules, as opposed to like cameras being monitored 24/7 or traps rigged or a killer robot. She also just never talks, which also makes her cooler, but also a little campier. Yes, these things can coexist. I do not care. I think I'm gonna have to put this in Monocub's Giving Birth tier. I don't hate it, and I see why people could find humor or drama in it, but I don't necessarily think it's that funny. I just wanted to bring up a moment from Eden's Garden. I love you, Eden's Garden. Moving on to another moment from the Desperate Heart series. Here we have the werewolf reveal. This shit drove me crazy. I literally screamed in real life when I realized that it was not a joke, and the motive for the Chapter 2 murder of Desperate Hearts 2 was straight up a guy finding out another guy was a werewolf. You know, like, ow, and trying but failing to kill him for that reason. I cannot explain how much I love this. For context, this was my first real exposure to the Desperate Heart series too. Okay, babes, this is Tomochi Kukurin, and he is the ultimate cryptozoologist. And he basically spends a large portion of his life trying to find out what cryptid killed his father. If your first thought is, no, That can't be it, can it? Babes, it is! Tomochi Kukurin fucking wolfed out on his dad and killed him! So, he lost memory of this event and was determined to find information on the werewolf that killed his dad, both in and out of the killing game. Enter his pseudo-father figure, Gunma Onigiri. So Gunma is looking after Tomochi for the first 2 chapters and tries to help him figure out some of this stuff. Anyways, babes, Tomochi wolfs out in the killing game and slashes the fuck out of Gunma's back, and also attacks the killer of this chapter as well, Emiliano Russi. Anyways, Emiliano Russi is on this BoJack Horseman type beat where he was a real shithead to everyone around him because of his internal issues, and then he was like, if I kill the werewolf, I'll be everyone's hero. Yay! So he rigs up a trap at a community movie event where everyone had assigned seats, and the gun was rigged to shoot Tomochi, but some bullshit ended up happening and Gunma ended up dying instead. I say all this to say that Tomochi's werewolf shit got not only his father killed, but one of the best characters of Desperate Heart 2, Emiliano Russi. Fuck you, Tomochi. Fuck you, fuck you, fuck you, fuck you, fuck you, fuck you, fuck you. And you want to know the most fucked up part? A separate, unrelated person kills him for being a werewolf the next chapter! We just had this giant 2-chapter long werewolf saga with a guy I frankly was hoping would die anyways, because I thought he was kind of a shithead. It's wild. It feels so Danganronpa. And that's what I love about the Desperate Heart series. If this were a grade of just Tomochi, it'd be a lot lower, because I hate him, to be honest. But for just the werewolf reveal, it gives me so much fucking delight. How can you not see that they just put an actual werewolf in this Fanganronpa and not just smile? It's so fucking funny how people are just like, oh yeah, he's a werewolf too. And the way that the ugly baby Monokuma forced him to wolf out mid-trial is also so stupid and funny. All that being said, werewolf reveal Tomochi is going to be our first Mechamaru tier. Yes! Moving on to another relatively more obscure Fangan, we have the prologue reveal of Absolute Soul Destruction in Eternal Endings. Eternal Endings is a Fangan that, from what we know so far, stars 17 ultimates in a purgatory-like realm where they're being held for a killing game. They are being held there by a supernatural being known as Alto. Anyways, as Alto explains the concept of the killing game, he tells them that even though they're already dead, they can be killed again, and that this time, anyone who is murdered will have their souls be permanently destroyed. There's no higher sense of heightened drama than the soul. The spiritual manifestation of the self just being destroyed like that. I also feel like Alto's more spectral and inviting presence than other headmasters makes the nonchalant discussion of soul destruction simultaneously a little creepier and a little sillier. They also get bonus points because this supernatural entity is entrusting a bunch of mortals to be the one to find and kill this guardian fella. Of course, that all could just be a lie, granted. But anyways, ultimate soul destruction is gonna go to Pregnant Hina tier. I think the general dreary and monotone atmosphere of the Eternal Ending prologue environment makes the humor in the situation a bit more muted, but I have to admit, getting your soul destroyed by being a competitor in a killing game is kind of a funny idea. Okay, this next one is a bit of a quickie, but I had to show all of you 50-year-old Makoto. This is from Desperate Heart 2, and in it, he's trying to stop the killing game from happening from outside of it. Kyoko's there too, but her design isn't as kind of funny to me. Also, her and Makoto have a baby in it. Anyways, the reason I find this camp is just like, look at him. Look at this design. Makoto would not grow facial hair like that. Also, despite the framing of this being in a semi-canon Danganronpa world, we hadn't really seen that much of the canon characters yet. He takes a semi-big role in the story outside of the killing game. There actually isn't that much to say about him that isn't spoilers. Just 50-year-old Makoto is always such a jump scare when I show it to other Fanganronpa fans. I'm putting 50-year-old Makoto in the Hero's Ghost Theory tier because I really like it. Next, we have the Tsurugi CG from Danganronpa Another 1. Tsurugi and the other 2 survivors had just defeated despair. The school was exploding behind them as they escaped. They had just managed to get on a helicopter to escape at the last moment. The intense high-beat escape music is replaced with a more calming song to signal that they've finally gotten out. The 3 of them are obviously very glad to still be alive. They all begin reflecting on the experience and what they're gonna do now. And then Mr. Anime Cop starts talking, and you begin to worry, oh no, Surely not, right? And then to end the game, the last we see of the survivors, we get one final CG of Tsurugi looking absolutely demonic. And in a page out of Light Yagami's book, he declares that he is going to create an organization that is going to kill all evil. I love this moment for a variety of reasons. It is so dramatic. It helps set up Tsurugi's action in the sequel and confirms that unlike Rei or Teruya, Tsurugi became worse in a lot of ways throughout his time in the Killing Game. I wouldn't say this is camp in the funny way, but the ways in which he so clearly has not learned anything from this ordeal, and the ways in which you, the viewer, have been watching his philosophy fail everyone around him, I do think there's a tragic irony to this refusal to change. Anyways, I think this is gonna have to go down in Pregnant Hina tier. We're gonna end off with one last campy moment, and this campy moment is gonna be the entire final chapter of Desperate Hearts 2. I cannot explain how much insane whiplash I felt watching this. I want to be clear, I love Desperate Hearts so much. I love its earnestness and silliness, and courage to do things other Fangan writers haven't really touched on before. However, going through 5 chapters of a pretty typical Killing Game, for the final chapter to become a fucking anime arc where they just go and kill all the villains was crazy to me. I promise no context I give you could make this make sense unless I explain the entire plot. So we're just gonna go through some highlights of mine. Monica Toa comes back from outer space, and at this time should allegedly be like late 20s, early 40s. I'm not positive about the timeline. But sis is not aged a day. I need Monica Toa's skincare routine. I guess murder really does a body good, girl. Anyways, Monica's like a good guy now. She gets redeemed and meets her mom, and is also just like a part of the team with the survivors and 50-year-old Makoto. Like, picture like a picture of a bunch of people who love hope, and then Monica Toa. It's like, girl thinks she's a part of the team. Anyways, babes, Nadine, the ultimate ballerina, right? She's in love with the protagonist, so she's like, oh, I want to go help kill the villains, and so she goes with the protag to do that. The protagonist asks her to keep watch outside of the facility where some shit is being made that the mastermind is doing. And then a few minutes later, Nadine is attacked by a fucking clone of herself that appears to be made of this like gray goo. For the next few minutes, we watch Nadine and her goo clone do this elegant sort of dance fight thing until eventually Nadine pulls out a knife and cuts her own goo clone's head off. You ate that. So now that she survived that, her and her situationship, Charlotte, can live happily forever, right? Cut to Charlotte inside the facility fighting off another goo clone, but instead of the goo clone being herself, it's her best friend who was also a prominent character in Desperate Hearts 1. And unfortunately, this goo fight doesn't have a happy ending. The goo clone fucking wounds Charlotte fatally. She doesn't technically die until the epilogue, but it's as a result of this fight. I did not expect the story to fucking end with Charlotte dying, especially considering the protag of Desperate Heart 1 died as well. There's 3 other survivors going around doing stuff other than Nadine, but one of them was just riding around on a helicopter, so we're not gonna worry about him. But the other 2, Odo and Natalie, these 2 are fucking manning this like giant Transformers ass mech. Like, remember the huge Monokuma from the end of Despair Girls? Picture that, but it looks like just like a fucking mech. And then the mech fights this giant ass monster that I could explain, but I don't want to give too intensive of spoilers. And eventually the mech fucking wrestles and destroys and beats the shit out of the monster with the help of a bunch of other people. And that's it. That's the end. This chapter is such a perfect capstone for the vibe and energy that Desperate Heart delivered throughout its running. The only way I can describe it is literary maximalism, putting in as many different ideas and plots together as possible, and tying as many threads as you can together. And although sometimes it feels like those threads got tangled, goddamn, it was a lot of fun. This Fangan is also probably the most important Fangan on this list to me. I watched through this Fangan and the prequel both with one of my partners, and it's some of my best memories with them. I'm putting this in Hero's Ghost Theory tier for now, because there's so much I love about this chapter, and it's so fun and so funny at points. However, Charlotte died, and I don't like that. Next, before we go real quick, I want to give a quick shout out to the game Agarasia. It's made by the creator of Desperate Hearts, and I would really love if you guys could check it out. The demo is available now, and I think it's important to support these creators who make these great fan projects for us to sink our teeth into when they move on and they decide to do other endeavors, just as a way of paying it forward and saying thank you. If just one person who sees this video gets the demo or wishlists the game, that would mean the world to me. I would really, truly appreciate it. There will be a link in the bio to the game below. Thank you so much for making it to the end of the video. What should I make a video on next? Now that I've made multiple videos, I feel like you guys at least have a ballpark's idea of the kind of stuff I like making or talking about. Also, comment below any Fangan moments you think I should have included in this campy list. Also, do you have experience with any of these Fangans? Don't forget to hit any of those buttons below. Bye-bye.